Everybody thinks the American dream is to buy a house. Everybody thinks the American dream is to have a huge wedding. And you've proven it with your story that you don't need a house. And it can accelerate your path to FI. You don't need the big wedding because it's about the memory.
I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and all my friends went away to school. My parents were like, "You're going to community college," and I was not really happy with it. But then again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so it was a great opportunity to work and go to school at the same time, but get the general education out of the way instead of spending a lot at I don't know. I just think for me personally, it worked, and I'm glad I did because again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I worked in the summer, but I also went to school in the summer. I was afraid if I didn't take classes in the summer that I would work like full time and plus other gigs, and I would love the income so much that I wouldn't go back to school. So I always took classes, even in the summer. I remember looking up and I was like, "Daddy, can I have some money?" And he's like, "Get a job." And that just really stuck with me. I actually had to get a worker's permit when I was 15, entering locker combinations into the computer. And I've been working ever since. Another thing that really struck with me is in 1989, my parents actually bought me a car. We only had one. And I remember at the finance office and my dad's like, "You're going to run this car into the ground." And that was 1989. And I've only owned 2 cars my whole life.
Welcome to Catching Up to FI, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Becky, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your hosts. We're here to help you with your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting from.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to FI together.
Hello, and welcome back to Catching Up to FI. I'm Bill Young with my co-host Becky Heptig, and we have Diana Falck with us today. Diana is a 52-year-old retired wife, stepmom to 6, grandma to 6, and she's with us on the staff of Catching Up to FI as our Facebook group administrator and also helping with social media and financial literacy advocate residing in Arizona. She's primarily a minimalist. She was in survival mode and burdened with a 6-figure MBA debt for over a decade. The Chicago-born Italian was determined to fight the good fight and enrolled in Financial Peace University. She went gazelle intense to pay off debt, save for an emergency fund, and invest for retirement. Due to the overhaul in her life, she wanted freedom for others and volunteered in stewardship ministries and then the financial independence community. Diana married at 48 and went around the debt mountain for a second time. Diana is passionate to help and encourage late starters as the journey hits very close to home. Welcome to the show, Diana.
Thank you, Bill and Becky. It's great to be here.
Well, Diana, I was thinking earlier today, you've been connected with Bill and I for quite a while. I met you, I'm trying to think. I met you the first time at the meetup that we had in Phoenix. And if anyone, in fact, Diana, you are the CUtFI local meetup coordinator for the Phoenix group. Is that correct?
Yes, the admin. And I've held a couple events, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So you and I met in Phoenix at a meetup. Then we attended CUtFI together last year, and you met Bill at Economy even before that.
Yes.
So, and you've been one of our biggest fans, and now you're helping us here at Catching Up to FI, which I think is awesome. You're doing such a great job, and I love working with you. And what I wanted to share with our audience before we get started is Diana's story. They're just going to love your story, Diana. It's a story of wins and failures, of exciting times and obstacles that you have literally either climbed over, around, under, through. You did whatever it took to get where you needed to be, and you've had some wins to go along with that. And you also have a debt story. So I just wanted to say that I hope our audience really listens today. I hope that they get some encouragement, because all of us are old enough to have had some stuff happen in our lives, and you've had some stuff, but we also know that we can overcome it. And so that's what I want people to hear, is that you may be facing something right now in your life that is hard, that you don't know how you're going to handle or how you're going to get through it. But just know that we're all here to encourage each other and that we can do it together. So I can't wait to hear your story. So let's dig in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing too, is that I've been involved with Diana since Financial Literacy Project, which predates actually Catching Up to FI. We've been hanging around virtually, and then we got to meet each other at Economy. And again, I would encourage folks to come to Economy. You get to meet all of us there because we go, and other folks in this community do go, and that's where you get to meet your virtual friends. And that's how I met Diana. So Diana, let's take you back. Let's take you back to the beginning of your money story. What were your foundational scripts that set you off on your money life?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. I actually would like to start with the importance of parenting and being a grandparent and how words just can really be instilled and planted and grow within a child. When I was maybe about 8, my father had a dresser drawer, and on the top one, he would count his money. Well, I was small, so I was under the drawer, and I remember looking up and I was like, Daddy, can I have some money? And he's like, get a job. And that just really stuck with me. I actually had to get a worker's permit when I was 15, entering locker combinations into the computer. And I've been working ever since. Another thing that really struck with me is in 1989, my parents actually bought me a car. We only had one. And I remember at the finance office, and my dad's like, you're going to run this car into the ground. And that was 1989. And I've only owned 2 cars my whole life. So that's another script.
Well, I've owned only 3. You've beaten me. I thought I was the one that, I mean, yeah, they've been kind of luxury cars, truth be told, but I have 160 some thousand miles on this one. And I think I was over 200 in the last one. But if memory serves me, you have cars that are really ancient.
Yes. So the 1989 Civic in 2006, I was on my way to a second interview because I needed extra money. We'll get into that later. And I totaled the car. I was on the phone. Don't be on the phone and drive. And so so in 2006, I bought a 2004. So the 89 Honda Civic had about 200,000 on her. I know it's over 200,000. And then I still have the 2004 Honda Civic, and she has 271. So yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I went for an appraisal one time. I had a side swipe with the second Civic, and then I had to get it appraised. And I went in because I was thinking I would need it. This was in 2016 or so. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna need a car in a couple of years. And he's like, we see Hondas come in here with 300,000 and 400,000 miles on them. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. So, but that really stuck with me one day. I was like, you're gonna run this to the ground, and I'm like, oh, I guess I could do that. So. It's just,
is it a FI badge of honor to have a car that turns over to over 300,000 miles on it or something?
That's right.
Taking pictures.
Did you get a bumper sticker or something? My other car is my 401k, right? Is that how it works?
Yes, from the Playing with Fire movie, I got some swag, and so on my bumper sticker, it does say my other vehicle is a 401k. That is correct.
I love it. I love it.
Another script. My parents were very strict. I'm very grateful. They were awesome parents. They did the best they could, and I was just. It was good. My mother, they gave me a credit card when I was in community college. And I remember my mom almost like not threatening me with it, but she put a lot of fear in me. I have no idea what she said, but all I know is probably do not spend this frivolously, don't use this and not pay it back. But I never had a credit card because of that, where I didn't pay, like I had a purchase and I didn't pay it off at that month. So that really stuck with me too. So those are probably the biggest scripts that I have from growing up.
You got a credit card when you were pretty young. I know my son has not had the best time with credit cards. He sees it as play money that he can pay back anytime. He kind of took that probably from me a little bit, although I've paid it off every month. It just wasn't something that was on my mind. Can you tell us a little bit about your credit card journey then?
Yeah. So where I got in trouble, we're just jumping around a little bit, but when I was getting my MBA, I had an internship and I had so many loans, mostly Sallie Mae was out. That's back then. This is 1999. So I was about 27, 28 back then. And again, it was like 8.99 variable rate. So it could go up or down. And I got an offer from one of the credit card companies. It was an actual check and it was a wonderful 0%. And I'm thinking, why would I pay 8.99%? And Sallie Mae could bring it to up and down to anything. I'll just write myself a check and send it to Sallie Mae, and then I won't have that anymore, even though it was for only maybe a year or something like that. But unfortunately, I carried revolving debt for a decade. So I don't recommend it. The other thing offers I would get are 2.99, 3.99, 4.99 for the life of the loan. And I would just be writing myself checks and I was living off of them. So yes, I always paid off my credit cards, but I had loan balances that were never over 4.99%. So that was a big mistake. And the biggest was I just did not like Sally Mae at all. It was my biggest debt. And one time I maxed out, like it was over $20,000, my AT&T credit card, I remember. And I wrote the check to Sally Mae, and then Sally Mae turned around and bought my private loan. So I still was stuck with Sally Mae till I was debt free. So that's my credit card journey.
Oh, my
10
goodness.
years of revolving debt. That's a long time to carry that burden. I remember I came out of residency with significant credit card debt, probably, I only have to guess because I didn't keep track of it, but say $25,000. And I did the revolving debt thing with zero balance cards every 6 months, every 9 months. I thought I was living large, man. I got this without any interest whatsoever. But it just doesn't work. It is a terrible way to manage debt. And we can talk about that further. I derailed you a little bit on your story if you want to move back towards how you moved through money, school, and where you went from there.
Sure. So I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and all my friends went away to school. My parents were like, "You're going to community college," and I was not really happy with it. But then again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so it was great opportunity to work and go to school at the same time, but get the general education out of the way instead of spending a lot at a just I don't know. I just think for me personally, it worked, and I'm glad I did because again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I worked in the summer, but I also went to school in the summer. I was afraid if I didn't take classes in the summer that I would work like full time and plus other gigs, and I would love the income so much that I wouldn't go back to school. So I always took classes, even in the summer. So I did go away to a small college outside of. I'm originally from Chicago, as you said.
So am I. Well, kind of, sort of. I lived there for a long time. Love Chi-Town.
It's a great place. And while I was there, I was studying international business, economics, and Spanish with a minor in French. And I had an opportunity to go with the Marquette University. They have the Universidad Complutense de Madrid. So it was a school in Madrid that was sponsored by Marquette. And I actually originally wanted to go to the American University of Paris, but it was too expensive to get my degree from there. So while I was in Madrid, I actually next went for 2 semesters, a summer and a fall, to the American University. So that brought up more debt. And when I was in school, my parents are like, take out as many loans as you can. And I'm like, okay, so I'm taking all these loans. And then when I graduated, my parents are like, now you pay these back.
Exactly.
Oh, my. Did you know that?
No, I did not. They're like, keep taking the loans out. No. Or maybe they did. I was just so running around. I just didn't pay attention but no.
Well, you're 18 years old at this time, right? 18, 19, 20, somewhere.
Well, I graduated in 94. I'm a super senior. It took me 5 years. So I was 23. Yep.
Yeah, but you're having to make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollar decisions at a time where you're a money baby. I mean, I did the same thing.
I love it. I don't know. It's very different now. Things are very different. But I actually had $10,000 of debt from my undergrad. But it was a lot at that time. I was only making $24,000 a year. I got a full-time job at one of the big 6 accounting firms in the consulting side, and I would get paid for overtime. So when my parents were like, you're paying this back, I had the full-time job, plus I had 2 other jobs. I waited tables and whatever I could do because and I paid off that loan in 6 months. So one friend was like, oh, you should have never done that. You have to build your credit. And I didn't want to pay interest. And then just the thing with my parents telling me you have to pay back. But it was a great lesson. So yes, they told me to take out as many loans, but I did something about it. Me personally, I just knew that was something I didn't want. And in 6 months, it was gone. Plus, it was great because if I did have that, I wouldn't have been able to go into the Peace Corps. So I really wasn't using my international business economics and Spanish and French degree. And I remember reading a book and Guide to Career in International Affairs or something like that. And in the book, they were listing different companies and they wanted developing world experience. I'm like, why would you want developing world experience? Well, you get to improvise without the resources when you're out in the middle of nowhere. So I applied for the Peace Corps. And I was actually invited to Dominican Republic. And people were like, oh, yeah, my parents went there for their honeymoon. But the electricity went on every day, cold showers. And then I'm not kidding you, for work, I would actually like my perfume was off because they love getting you like underneath your desk. They attack your legs. So, I mean, it was pretty rough, but it was great. I was in a great town. I loved it. It was with Chamber of Commerce. So I volunteered for 2 years. And because I didn't have that debt, I was able to do that. And I also, first time, contributed to my IRA when I was working full time before I went to the Peace Corps. So I also knew I wanted to go to Thunderbird. So this is before the internet, and this is 95 to 97. And I had the Thunderbird catalog and literally carried it around the island with me. And I knew that's what I want to do. That actually, when I returned home, within, I think, 14 days, my mom and I flew out to Arizona from Chicago, and we went on a tour of the school. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And when I came out here, they couldn't believe I didn't have any debt because I had no money, none. But I was trying to get every loan possible. And I did. $100,000 worth of debt. So I graduated in 2001, had a dream T-Bird job, but again, it was 2001. And there's just a humbling experience after humbling experience I could share. I have a lot of stories. If anybody would like to talk offline, I would love to tell you any story you'd like to know. But just to make this for the sake of the show, my first job was, again, a dream T-Bird job. Everybody was let go. I hit the debt, the minimum payments, but then I had no job. And I got the offers in the mail for $4.99. I'm writing myself checks, living off of that. Job here, job there. And then the world of humanitarian aid opened up for nonprofits. A friend mentioned, you should check out Food for the Hungry. So I'm like, okay. And they needed someone in their Hunger Corps department, which is like Peace Corps, but you raise your own support. But I was actually a paid position of $9 an hour. So I was a clerk for the Hunger Corps area. And I was also waiting tables. And I was a hostess. Now, mind you, I'd also just lost my job that I had. So I was in a $900 apartment. I couldn't afford to break the lease. So I walked in the office. I just let them know what happened. They're like, oh, someone just came in here and their lease ended and they had a studio apartment. I was like so relieved because I was so stressed. So anyway, got the 3 jobs. And then the opportunity occurred with them to go with Food for the Hungry International and to go abroad. That was about $32,000 a year. And it was in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the DRC. And I still tithed and I still made the minimum payments. I think I did. I was still I may have done some deferral on the ones I could. And then that was a year contract. So the majority of my jobs were contract jobs, just so you know. And then in 2004, tsunami hit. So when I came back from the DRC, I started actually, that's when I started renting rooms from families. They like $200 a month, $400 a month. And then the opportunity happened with tsunami. And we had an office in Thailand. So I flew out there, but they really needed me to start raising my own support. And my minimum payments were like, I have no idea, like $800 a month, $1,000 a month. And there was no way I could raise my support and be like, yeah, by the way.
Oh my. So Diana, let me ask you a question real quick, just to make sure that I'm following. So
absolutely. Thank you.
You have, at this point in time, you have how much debt?
100,000.
And these haven't been forgiven, or when you work for a nonprofit?
I don't think there may have been something, but to me personally, and I respect everyone's choices. Again, this is just my story, but I made a promise to pay that back. So, because I remember one friend was like, oh, you can declare bankruptcy. You can't declare bankruptcy on the loans, but I had those checks to myself. And I was like, I signed up for those. And just for me personally, I'm like, I need to pay those off. That was just my decision.
Right. So you've got 100,000 in debt. You're working for a nonprofit at obviously a low salary. Now you're expected to raise your own support, right, and you're making minimum payments on the debt.
Correct. And some were also on deferment.
Okay.
Or forbearance. I think I went for forbearance and then deferment, whichever it is that runs out first.
How did you feel at this time? Were you diabetic? Where you just were numb to it?
Well, that's a good word. No, it was constant stress. It was constant, like a burden. Honestly, I felt like a slave. It was a hard place to be. And I wanted to serve, and I didn't want to have to negotiate with a nonprofit. And I promised I would never, ever do that again. Another opportunity happened after tsunami gig was over, and an opportunity was in Kabul in Afghanistan. Now, that was considerably more. What made it more was, I don't know what the tax laws are now, but at the time, if you are outside of the United States for 12 consecutive months, you paid no federal taxes. So I had my pay, but then I also wasn't paying federal taxes. And that I hit some debt. I don't know what I did with the money, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't spend it, but I was making the minimum payments, but I was still doing revolving debt. I remember writing myself a check to pay off the Civic, that's 2004. So anyway, came back, humble pie coming out of my ears. It's like 2008, very hard time to look for a job. And where things really turned around, my beloved friend, and she was my accountant at the time, she kept going on and on about Dave Ramsey. I was so sick of hearing about him. And then in 2010, I was a contractor. I was making like $22 an hour. Then it went to 34. They hired me straight on as a contractor instead of going through the agency. And then they were implementing a new system. I had done that before. And the pay actually went up to $50 an hour. So that helped to pay about 60% of my debt. So I still had about $28,000 left. And then my career, I read an awesome book. Maybe we'll have it in the show notes. It's 48 Days of the Work You Love by Dan Miller. Absolutely awesome to find out like what you want to do. And a lot of stuff came up because I hung out with 60 and 70-year-olds because my friends had their homes, they had their toddlers, they had their family. And I just hung out with 60 and 70-year-olds, and I would end up helping them with like computer stuff. I started doing it for a living. So
guess what? You still are.
Absolutely. I need somebody like you so badly.
You're awesome. So what came up were electronic health records were really hot. This is what I forgot. I remember going to a meeting of some kind, and it was in 2010, maybe 2011. And it was about the doctors having to go on electronic health records from paper. And I'm thinking, people don't like change. This is going to be hot. They're going to need people to like train and help implement the systems. So it was hard to get in, but there was a local hospital that was hiring for electronic health record trainers, $22 an hour. And that's when I had a little bit of a wake-up call. But I do need to back up with FPU because so much happened with them. I will pick up with the wake-up call when I went to EHR. FPU, so many stories. We'll keep it short. Two big things that stood out for that class was the second one and the third one. The second one was on debt. And there is a scene, which may be in the show notes, where Dave Ramsey is actually in chains and he goes through a story and like it really hits home. Like, I'm like, this is how I felt. And then the third one is about paying off the debt and being gazelle intense. If no one's ever seen the scene, that may also be in the notes. It's just having a cheetah go after gazelle, and it just hits me every time because there's like a little baby gazelle. And he's like, look, he's got a college student, and I just get choked up because I think of the cheetah going after the college student, and it just happens. It's just
That's right.
It's very
That's right.
So a lot of stuff happened. So much was happening in FU. This is when it was 13 weeks. I couldn't wait to get to class because so many things are happening. Like when I paid off the Perkins loan, I was paying 10 years. So that's 12 months times 10. That's 120 payments that I paid. And when I didn't have to that $68.94 payment anymore, it was like a hot knife to butter. Even though I had to put that money towards because I did the debt snowball, I put that money towards my next loan. But I'm like, I don't have 6 loans anymore. The few credit card, life loan, and federal and private Perkins, not anymore. So when I went from 6 to 5, I was like, again, it was hot knife to butter. I couldn't stop. And so much was happening. I was like getting extra jobs. I was getting raises. And then I couldn't wait to go to class. Now, this is before Facebook groups. So I couldn't wait to get to class to hear what was going on in other people's lives. And I wanted to share what was happening. And I was so excited, but just with that class in particular, it was like a quenching. I was like totally on fire. And it was like some spirity ears, like, oh yeah, like you'll always have a car payment or whatever. So I'm an FPU dropout. I dropped out and because at that time they had CDs where you could listen to it. So I just listened to it, read the book. And so I wanted to make sure I got the FPU because that's a huge piece.
Well, actually, Becky has a story with regards to FPU and her son, I think.
Oh, that's right. our oldest son, our kids were still at home when we turned things around. And the first step in us turning it around, as I've said before, was Financial Peace University. But our oldest son was just about to graduate high school. Yeah, he looked at us and said, "You drank the Kool-Aid." He said, "This is a cult." But what's interesting is, of course, later, as you hear in his story in, I think it's episode 31 in Top Gun Finance, you hear that he actually did eventually get it. And he used that to also turn some things around. And I just wanted to make a comment. There are folks that you said you felt like you were on fire. I mean, there are folks that are with their debt situation. It is literally hair on fire. I mean, that is where they are. And sometimes they realize it, and sometimes folks don't realize it. And you're like, you don't understand. You need to get this handled right away. And then when you do, it's amazing how you feel. It's like, oh my gosh, I can breathe now. I mean, it's literally like this huge weight gets lifted off your shoulders, even when you get the first debt paid off. So I just want to encourage all of our listeners that there is a way to do this. If you're under a mountain of debt, there is a way to do this.
Well, actually, Becky required that her son listen to the CDs on his way to a new job. If you don't remember from the episode on Top Gun Finance, it was a requirement to pay them back for money they had to wire him when he had no money. I remember that story very vividly. But I want to ask you a question, Diana. Why do you think so many people find Dave Ramsey and Financial Peace University? What is it about our world of finance that is such a common starting point? We hear it over and over and over again.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because where I find a commonality also is in the podcast Millionaires Unveiled. A lot of millionaires started with Dave Ramsey. I don't know what it is for me personally, just with my character. I'm, Italian, like I need shoot from the hip. Tell me what it is. I needed someone like that to get my acting gear. That was just for me. There may be just like a scene from FU. There may be somebody saw something that happened in someone else's life and like, hey, I want that. The 7 baby steps. And some people in the FI community are against Dave Ramsey, and that's their opinion. But it has worked for some of us in the FI community. And again, I think it could be just an experience from taking the class. One big thing for me, I met with one of the coordinators before I dropped, and she was like, you have got to stop using your credit card. And I'm like, but I pay it off every month. And she's like, stop using. I'm like, well, I just have one more thing I have to do. I have a $400 minor service. And she's like, you have to pay cash. And I'm like, it's not like when I buy some windshield wipers in the impulse aisle. And she's like, pay cash. Let me tell you something. This is, again, what worked for me is that pushing those Ben Franklins across the cashier table was so painful. When we swipe with a credit card, there really isn't much of a reaction. It's okay. But when you have cash and Uncle Ben's going, like Dave Ramsey said, he's gone. So I went to the envelope system. That's what it did for me. And I closed all my credit cards. I have no idea when I no longer had a credit score. Obviously, it was after I was debt free. But yeah, I just closed all my credit cards. I have stories about that as well. The final step that happened with wanting to work so much, my career was changing. I was making $22 an hour. There was overtime. When we had our go live, the hospital started using electronic health record system. I'm making more money. I'm like, wake up call, like, hey, I have an emergency fund. I got a will, because I'm like, it wasn't that much money, but there was money there. But I wanted to make sure the money was taken care of. So I got a will. And then the contract was ending. And I still had about 26 or 25. So I don't know how much I had left. I have no idea, because I was paying it off with that. But the contract was ending, and there were these go lives where you would go to another state and the pay was unbelievable. They needed somebody right away. So they actually offered me $60 an hour. Now the gig was for 2 weeks. I worked my way up. I started at $22 an hour. And that gig, I worked 23 days straight. 12-hour shifts, had the commute there, the commute back. And I wasn't working out, and there were 11 floors to the place. And I got to work out. So before the shift would happen, first time I did it, I was on the 6th floor, and I thought I was going to die. But every day I would do it. And this is just like my debt journey. And every day I would go up those stairs, and I would say, slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. And it was so hard because I was not in shape, but it just reminded my Dutch journey. And it's just like the tortoise wins every time. And you just keep at it. It can happen. And it's not easy. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. But side hustles and we're waiting tables. My feet hurt so much I couldn't even fall asleep at times. But I made really good money at that for those 2 weeks. So much that at the end of that December 2012, I'm like, I wanted to be debt free by the end of December 2012 because at that time you couldn't write, if they were going to change the law the 1st of 2013, that you couldn't write off interest. And by golly, because of that gig, and I believe God provided all of this, that debt was wiped out. And I have not had any debt since. I will never pay interest again. I don't know if will ever own a home, but we're just renting. And this is just where we are now. And then getting on the car piece, it is also very soothing when I see people like Ramit, he has the same Accord we do.
I will teach you to be rich.
Yes, thank you.
Well, what I want to know actually is, what age were you at when you hit a net worth of 0?
That's a good question because I had saved for an IRA when I had a 94, 95. So I had a little stash there. And then I contributed to again for like a year or two because I had internships or I was getting my MBA. I honestly do not know because I had that little stash. So I would say maybe this summer that I was still making $22, sometimes $33 an hour.
How old do you think you were at that time?
So 22, I was 41 because I didn't wake up. I didn't take FPU until I was 38.
So how old were you when you paid off all that debt?
I was 41.
Okay.
I wanted to be debt free before I was 40, but I didn't make it. So, okay. But I was 41.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
And Diana, I want to just make a comment about FPU. There are millions of people that have gotten debt free through FPU. And there are different opinions about it in the FI community. I think pretty much everybody agrees that if debt is the problem, that's a great place to start. My personal opinion is that's not where you want to stop. Don't stop with Dave Ramsey. There's more to learn after that. There's more things that we need to know about in order to wisely invest and grow our money. But oh my goodness, there is nothing better to get you back to 0 than Dave Ramsey. And the thing that worked for me was the step by step method. And then you start to see progress. I'm so glad to hear that worked as well for you as it did for me. And I'm with you. It was 13 weeks when I took it the first time. It doesn't take that long now. He shortened it.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a commitment, but it was so worth it in the end.
Well, both of you went on to teach in FPU, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we did. We did. And it's because it makes so much difference. And Bill, all 3 of us here on the call today have a burning passion for financial literacy and to get this message out to other people. And I think that's probably, Diana, why you turned around and started teaching FPU. I know that's why Stephen and I did it. It made such a difference in our lives. It's like, I've got to share this with other people. I can't keep this to myself.
Well, that's why we're all on this podcast together today, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely. All right. So now what happens? You've got the debt paid off. So what does life look like now?
Yeah, because I was still doing contract jobs. So 2013 was mostly building my emergency fund, sinking funds. But I do want to say something about FPU. Again, FPU isn't really for everybody because it's very, very strict. But what education I recommend now, after now getting into the FI community, CUtFI has free curriculum, free classes at ChuseFI.com. I mean, I highly recommend those classes. Those are free. Either way, FPU, I recommend ChuseFI. There's a whole bunch of classes out there that people are putting. So just to give some people other options as well. Yes, FPU has worked for some, but there's other opportunities. So getting back to 2013, saving for my emergency fund, one of my contractors that I was with, they had 401ks, and I was like, oh, goody. I didn't even know in the end, like in November 2013, that they had Roth 401ks. I didn't know. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have Roth. So I was signing up for that, but that gig ended. And an opportunity actually opened up for a full-time job. And there was a 401k involved. It was a cut in pay, but there were benefits and I had to think long term. So this is when I first started hardcore in retirement. So 2014, maxing out the Roth IRA. I was doing the Roth 401k and then saving like crazy. So that's when things really started speeding up. And I was in stewardship ministry. I was coordinating FPU classes. I was getting into other ministries in other states and what have you, and another one here, another church. And when I read, there was a blog called No More Harvard Debt. I don't even think it's available anymore, but where a lot of it started was in the blog, they happen to have a link to Mr. Money Mustaches, the shockingly simple math behind early retirement, which I send to everyone. I mean, you read that article and you just go down the bunny route. There's no return. And that really got me. I have to admit, I was afraid of the FI community just because of the credit card hacking and all that. And I didn't have any credit cards, but I started to educate myself more, and I ran out of Marriott points because I wasn't traveling with my job as much. And there was an opportunity, there was a conference in another state, and I'm like, I don't have any Marriott points. So I actually had, because I had no credit score, I went to Amazon. They had like sort of like a pay as you go. And because first Bonvoy rejected me, so I got the Amazon, and it was actually it wasn't even months. And I applied again in Bonvoy, then I got the Bonvoy.
How low was your credit score at this point? You'd cancel all your cards. You'd not had any.
So you go on, you have no score. None. I didn't have it. I remember in a class, 2018, I'm like, I don't have a credit score. And like somebody freaked out in our class. They're like, you don't have a credit score? And I'm like, no. Because I'm sure like finance, if I were to do manual underwriting, my interest rate would have been higher. But I was renting rooms from people. I had did that, which I didn't mention. Had an opportunity. He opened this opportunity in 2009 for a condo to rent for $399 a month, 407 with tax. I lived there for a decade. I lived there till I married Jason. So he did raise the rent once, like after 9 years, like $50 because of insurance. But I mean, I was paying $457 for rent. So that was my house hacking. It was the renting rooms, and then my shoebox apartment, as my husband calls it. So I just wanted to add that in there too.
Wow. So I was going to say, you have, in essence, house hacked, not because you rented rooms out to other people or you had roommates, but you just were living in tiny rentals. So you've never owned a home.
I have never owned a home. That is correct.
Okay. But so let me ask this. Did that give you some flexibility, or did that give you a way to accelerate your debt payoff at times because you were willing to live in small places? And now you said you rented rooms from other people. So you were literally renting like a bedroom in someone's home?
That is correct. And sharing the refrigerator, the little piece that says sharing the refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
Okay. So I want folks to hear this. In other words, sometimes when you feel like there is no way, there is a way. It's just dependent on the choices you make. And sometimes those choices aren't easy and they're not fun, but they are doable. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. And a little sacrifice now, or a lot, doing what's right for you, and how gazelle you want to be. Or some people, they're like, I still need to travel. Whatever you value, it could prolong the time more. But like, for example, our first year of marriage, we hardly saw one another. Jason had some debt coming in, but we sacrificed that year so we could enjoy the rest of our lives together. So that was just our choice. Do I regret what I did? Like 23 days straight, 26 days straight, working side hustles, doing what I had to do. I don't. I mean, yes, I did get burnt out, I'll be honest, but then you take some time off. But to me, it was worth it. I didn't travel. I didn't get to see my dad for his 70th birthday. His children from his first marriage, and I just did a Skype call. And so there's things that I gave up, but to me, it was worth it to have that freedom and peace.
Right. And I'm not saying that this is for everyone, but if you are in the hair on fire situation, that sometimes for a season, there may be some hard choices that need to be made, but then they're worth it in the end.
So you say that your debt snowball finished in sort of 2014 era, and then your savings snowball started, at least when your debt snowball ended. What was that like? What was the journey to save?
The first baby step is $1,000 in the bank. I had $2,500, and when I had to put $1,500 towards my Perkins loan, which I didn't want to pay off because it was only 5%. That was a hard step. Of course, the debt payoff is a hard step, just everything but the house. It took a year. I mean, it's like pretty much all of 2013 because I'm trying to like get CDs, like that was just what I did because there wasn't high yield savings accounts at that time. But yeah, I would say that was really hard, was saving for 3 to 6 months emergency fund. I wanted more because I have my security gland. He gets into it in the class. I want that safety net. So only having $1,000 for a couple of years and then living the way I did and so much risk, I just needed more peace. So building the emergency fund was really important to me.
Yeah, and then where did it go from there? I mean, you maxed out your 401k, you maxed out your IRA. Did you see a snowball there? How did it feel, and how fast did things change in the other direction?
Yes, thank you. So the year for the 3 to 6, and then when the 401k opportunity happened in February 2014 when I started the full-time job. So like, now what? You maxed out, what else is left? Brokerage account. So I opened a brokerage account, was throwing money, low-cost index funds in there, and then finding FI. I was just like, you mean I can, quote, retire early or have work optional? Or if I had a passion project, like, I don't know, helping a podcast out, I could do that because I wouldn't have to work. Just give an example. But having to work, and especially if there's a job out there, a lot of us have had at least one time in our life that we just did not care for. It was a burden. We were burnt out. We weren't using our skills. Monday morning, I mean, how many people have heart attacks like on Monday mornings, that the jitters on Sunday nights because we wake up, what have you. So having that option, and I just flew with it. I just kept throwing money at the brokerage account. And even though I was a full-time employee, my employment was actually tied to the project. So if I didn't have a project, the company would actually let me go. So I started maxing out my 401k by like May, in case if I lost my job, because the match was once a year. So they didn't have like true up or anything like that. When they would match in June, and if you did at least 6%, you would get like 25%. I think it was 25 cents of the dollar in June. So that's what I was doing every year. The other thing is that I did not mention in 2007 when I came back from Afghanistan, I got private insurance for $200 a month with Blue Cross and Blue Shield HSA, high deductible plan. And by the time I married Jason in 2000, they had raised it to almost $800 a month. So I always had private, even though I could have gotten benefits with the full-time employer. Again, my employment was tied to the contract. So I paid for my own health insurance. But what I started doing in 2015 is I started touching my HSA. And I started using it as another account for retirement. And then I eventually learned about investing, finally got my HSA over to Fidelity, which I highly recommend. Again, this is disclosure, but that's just what I did. It was working for me. So yeah,
I do it too. I have my HSA at Fidelity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do I. Yep.
So you really got things going. You're maxing everything out. You're now in 2023. Your journey has been, of the savings journey, it's been 10, 11 years or so. Where do you stand now? I mean, how fast did it change, and where are things now? Tell people what you can do in 10 years.
Yes. So first of all, please remember, I was doing this as a sink. I was single. I had no kids. So it's very different. So getting to go around the debt on the mountain for a second round with kids and grandkids is totally different. And then, so that's another story for another episode or a blog or something. But let's just put it this way, without getting into any details. When I met Jason, from that time, the day before we got married, to now, our net worth together has tripled. Granted, the market has been very good, but Jason has, to get rid of his debt in 2020, he had 7 employers. Even he was doing landscaping work at $13 an hour in like 100+ degree weather. He did whatever he had to do. He was a CT tech. He picked up extra shifts he went to other hospitals, other freestanding clinics. He wanted to be rid of the debt as well. He drank the Kool-Aid. He was listening to CUtFI and what have you. So,
how did you get him? I mean, because he had obviously not had the Kool-Aid before he met you. And what was that transition like for him?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. Actually, I think God may have been preparing him because the summer that I met him in September, that summer, he actually sold his house and paid off the majority of his consumer debt. So he had a little bit in him already. So he was sort of already on his way, but there were so many eye openers for him. We talked about money right away. And he fessed up about his six-figure. He had over $100,000 in school debt. And he's like, yeah, I'm going for the 10-year thing, right? Because he worked for a hospital. And I said, no, you're not. And I'm like, you promised to pay that. You made a commitment to pay that back. You're paying for that. And so we were going back and forth. And I love Excel spreadsheets. I have a spreadsheet and I made 3 scenarios. So it wasn't too much for him because I'm like, we could pay this off in 2 years. So I had like a 2-year, like a 5-year, like how long, but how long it, like what the payments had to be and what have you. Now, mind you, he was with the federal low at 6.375%. He got his payment lowered to about 600. I did the calculation. He was paying over $700 a month in interest. And I said, Jason, did you know that you're never going to get out of this? He's like, yeah, that's why I'm going for the 10 year. I'm like, no, you're going to make extra payments. So you're going to pay this off. And it was actually you, Bill. You're like, he needs to refi to SoFi. So I mentioned that to him. He's like, no, there's a fee when you refinance. All I got to say is when you all get married, just duck and God will get a hold of your husband or your spouse, whatever. So, I mean, that's just what happened because I'm like, okay, don't. And then all of a sudden he's like, so I did some research and at the hospital, they have SoFi, you can refi and they actually pay, there's no fee. I said, really? So we like refinance. He still had a car loan and I'm like, he had a tiny chunk of money. And I'm like, you're paying 4% for this loan. You could pay off the car. So all I did was mention it. He paid it off, and I was like, "Wow!" So it just took a little bit of mentioning. But getting back to the spreadsheet, I mean, I'm not kidding you. He stood there. I showed him the 3 scenarios, and his chin was like on the ground, and he was like, "I thought I would have this debt forever. That I would go to my grave with this debt." And I'm like, "No, these are the ways you can do it." And he drank the Kool-Aid. Of course, we did it together. We sacrificed a lot. We did a lot. His car went out in July 2020. I only had $1,000 in my emergency fund. A lot of stories, but I did have to buy the car because he didn't have the cash for it. I did it with my next paycheck. So I do technically have 3, but the Accord that Ramit has about 211,000 miles on him. So anyway, but as far as like getting him on board, I mean, it was a deal breaker for me. And all I could do was just tell him what I've been doing. And like, he saw like my debt-free journey. And of course, we didn't not travel at all. I mean, he has children. We want to go see the children and the grandchildren. And so we did travel a little bit. We try to do mini moons here and there and go away for a day or two. But yeah, we pretty much did nothing. And there was a time in July 2021, and he just looked at the debt. I think he had scrubs on. He was so tired. And he saw the debt and he's like, I just want to be done with this. And I had been saving up some money, and we wrote a check in August 2021. We will never pay interest again.
Wow.
And hopefully we'll buy a house with cash if we decide to, but anyway, we'll see what happens right now.
Two things. Did you do the debt-free scream?
A lot of people don't know where that originated. Dave Ramsey, this is when faxes used to be around. So this is years ago. He had a Dave Ramsey show. This is when it was old. And one time a fax came in. I don't know, something happened, or a woman just called in and she's like, Dave, I paid off my house. I don't know. He's like, I sold the bushes in my front yard. Like, this person did everything that they could do. And she was just so passionate about it. She's like, Dave, I'm debt free. And that's where this debt-free scream started. So just so you know where that started.
Well, interesting. You just reminded me of Harry Met Sally. She has a few screams, and then everybody says, I'll have what she's having.
Takes their own.
You did a good job. I mean, it wasn't quite that dramatic, but it reminded me of Harry Met Sally.
Oh, that's too funny. So Diana, so how long did that one take? This was your second time around the debt mountain. How long did that one take?
So he started working on it a little bit more November. Well, I don't know, but when we got married, because he had started having the side hustle. So it was December 2020 to July 2021.
That's awesome. That's six
Less than a
figures
year?
of debt.
But
Oh my gosh.
y'all, he had 7 employers in 2020. I mean, he worked long hours, like 7 days a week. Like, he sacrificed a lot, and I was able to help as well. But it's just sometimes he just wanted to be done with it. We wanted to be free. And here's another thing that's different from the baby steps and from FPU, because Jay had no retirement savings. He had like 2 tiny pensions. He had not been contributing to his 403B. And I'm like, Jay, you got it. So in November, when we were courting, I'm like, you need to get your match. That's free money. So he did start contributing to that. And he went to work and he's like, so you guys know about this match thing? And they're like, you haven't been contributing to your 403B and getting the match? And he's like, no. So yeah. And then of course so even though he was paying off debt, so not only was just paying off debt, he's saving because he has no retirement. So, and Jason loves his job. I mean, maybe he'll work. It's like FI isn't really a thing for him. Of course, he would love to be able to like help out CUtFI or one of the other podcasts, or catching up to FI, what have you. Whoever needs help, we just love being able to help people if we could do it on the side or what have you. But I don't know if Jay will ever stop working because he loves it. And that's what some FI people do, or if he'll go part-time, or if he'll be a travel CT, I don't know. But he really, the company, we're really happy at the hospital. It's just, they've been so good to him, and he loves the people he works with. So, and now that he's not working nights anymore and days, that's like we have like a life together. We actually have dinner together and stuff. So I don't know if like FI is really his thing, but he is very like far behind in retirement. But we're also trying to travel as much as possible because, as Becky says, are go-go years. So we want to, and Jason really hasn't seen that much. So we have like a lot to see. So we actually had our first international trip this year, and that was like a big deal. And just living vicariously through him, and because I've been throughout Asia and Africa and other things, so it's just anyway. I can just keep rambling. Sorry.
Well, he loves his job. And a little anecdote on the side is, I want to know how you guys met.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So here I am at 48, and I was so tired of people being like, it'll happen when you least expect it. And I'd be like, I'm 48. Like, I was just like, and Jason had given up too. He's like, the only way I want to meet someone is if like they come into this hospital. Like, he was joking around, like, I'm not kidding you, like the week before. Long story short, I had abdominal pain, go to the Minute Clinic, and they're like, you need to get it, because like they couldn't even touch my stomach. They're like, you need to go to the hospital and get a CT scan. I burst into tears. I'm just going to be honest. I'm like, I've done 10 go lives. I'm like, I know what happens in hospitals. I'm like, I don't want to go to that. I just did not want to go. She's like, there's one right up the street. My sister went there last week. I'm like, so I get in the car and I'm like negotiating with God. I'm like, I'll go tomorrow morning if I'm still in pain. I'm like, I need to get my toothbrush and my charger from my phone. And so I pulled over, and my best friend, she's like, you are going to the emergency room. We're going to meet you there. It's like 9:30 at night. I mean, her husband's like he was like 80 and she's like 77 years old. I told you I hung up with 70-year-olds. They're really cool. So she met me at the emergency room. Long story short, they stayed till about midnight. They left, and about 12:20, because I have it on my electronic health record, in comes Mr. Blue Eyes, beautiful Mr. Jason. And I was like, wow. Yes, he was my CT tech. We hit it off really well. He was from Wisconsin. I'm like, so you eat cheese? And it was funny. And then he was like, yeah, and I got 2 grandkids. The guy's 45. I'm like, and 6 kids. I'm like, really? So, but we just hit it off really well. And then he ended up actually coming back into my room because he forgot to sign me out with my ID card or whatever. And I'm like, okay. But he had like they were using like the competitor electronic health record that I had been working on. So I'm like, on the bed, like a little kid, like I got on my knees, I got my spectacles on, and I'm like looking, and he's like, I don't think you're supposed to be seeing this as a competitor. I'm like, it's my electronic health record. I can look at it. So I'm like, and it was different for him. So I'm like navigating him how to walk through, because like to get in, because he wasn't able to get into the app or what have you. It was just, anyway, so we hit it off. And HIPAA, he couldn't contact me, but I had my electronic health record. So the following weekend, I happened to look at it. And then, because I remember it said Jason F. And I'm just glad his last name wasn't Smith. And I did what any 48-year-old single woman would do. I got onto Facebook, and there he was. And it said the hospital that he works at. And so I'm like, DMing at the end, we call it PM. I'm like, I just want to thank you for taking care of me. boom, immediately he writes me back. He's like, I'm so glad you contacted me. He's like, I couldn't contact you. And we're like messaging back and forth, hitting it off really well. He's like, do you want to go to dinner? And I'm like, what if this guy's like a ding dong? I don't want to sit across the table with some guy for 2 hours. I said, how about a phone call first? And he's like, okay. So I think we talked for like almost 3 hours. We got in the debt, everything. We got fine. We did the first phone call. I mean, we're from the Midwest. We talk about, we're just deep. We just talked about everything. And then he's like, so do you want to go to dinner? And I'm like, how about church? I need a safe place. And there happened to be one near his house, and one actually served at for stewardship ministry. And we met there, and I actually had, I think, a second or third time that we went to the church, I actually had the stewardship director meet with us because we were really good friends, him and his wife. And I'm like, you to meet this guy? Because like my dad's all the way in Chicago and what have you. I'm like, I need the stamp of approval. Like I'm scared. I was 48. I'm like, what am I doing? So, and also our second date, because he kept wanting to take me out to dinner, was a Dave Ramsey event. We volunteered and got free dinner. So, and it was so funny because they were going around when he was volunteering. We got separated and because they put him in another volunteer area, and they're going around saying how they found FPU. He's like, yeah, so I didn't do FPU. I really don't know why I'm here. Some girl invited me. I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh. You did drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And right out of the gates, it's debt on the first phone call and FPU with the second date.
Yes, the second date was an FPU.
That's right.
Volunteering, getting the free. That's not, we didn't do it for the free food, but it was awesome volunteering. And then him seeing the show and seeing Anthony O'Neill was there, and they did a little photo op at the end there. That's another thing I noticed about Jason is like, because it was before everybody came out because we were volunteers, and there's Anthony O'Neill and his little photo opportunity, and he's like, go up there now, go up there. I'm like, I can't go up there now, and like he like pushed me to do it. So there were a lot of things that I noticed that were different about Jason. That's why I fell in love with him, and he's just a great guy. Not because he's a pusher, but I mean, there's so many other things. And you all, both of you have met him. He's really an outstanding human being.
Well, I actually attended your wedding virtually because you had a virtual element to your wedding. So I saw you walk down the aisle in a beautiful desert setting.
Yes. Nice. We got married. There's a place here called Tom's Thumb, and we got married at the beginning where it starts. And there's a little veranda and stuff. And it was pretty cool that day, but we ended up, I just want to add, and again, some people value weddings. You want to spend a bunch of money. That's what you value. But with everything, it was under $5,000. But it was very short notice. We got married quickly. To be honest, one of the reasons I was off, the company I work for, it shuts down during Christmas. And he's like, because we're thinking like maybe in the spring or something. He's like, what about December 27th? And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh, he's like, you're off that week. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to take any time off. I'm like, planning my wedding, that's how like into work I was. But yes, we got married pretty quickly. But so we weren't expecting anybody to come because it was a max of 40 at the place that we got married. And then we're like, I guess we got to take these people out to lunch, like at least anyway, like the party and what have you. And I'm like, well, maybe we could have a lunch somewhere. And then I had Marriott points, and there is a place called, at that time, Copperwind. Now it's a Darrow. It's a Marriott. And we went to check it out. I'm like, hey, could we like have a lunch here? And they wanted us to do like per plate or what have you. I'm like, let's just do I'm kidding. We did sandwiches, yes, at my wedding. But it was nice. The view was beautiful. So anyway, so we did not spend that much. My dress wasn't, I think it was like $700 or something like that. And he got a suit for his son. And then, so the lunch, and then you got to pay for photographer and other things. So we did not have a videographer. I had two people. We had his son and my really good friend of mine just do the Facebook Live. So that's how you were able to watch it. So we were low budget we had to get a bunch of debt. I don't even have an engagement ring. That was just, I'm like, I don't want you spending a bunch of money on an engagement ring. That just wasn't for us. If you want, that's awesome. They're beautiful. I love diamonds, but we didn't have any money. So I'm just like, so I had like a Claddagh ring. So when he asked me to marry him, he like gave me the Claddagh. He gave me like the Claddagh ring, and I had that on. But and then my wedding ring is actually less expensive than his. I just wanted white gold. It was a little band.
Everybody thinks the American dream is to buy a house. Everybody thinks the American dream is to have a huge wedding. And you've proven it with your story that you don't need a house, and it can accelerate your path to FI. You don't need the big wedding because it's about the memory. It's not about the money spent, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
That's right. So Diana, after all of these struggles and roadblocks and everything that you have overcome, what does life look like now for you and Jason? And what are your dreams for the future?
Yes. Yeah, so much has changed. We are spending a lot for rent. We actually went to a house. And of course, expenses have gone up, but lifestyle is really important to us. We found this amazing community in Goodyear, in the south of Goodyear. So it's sort of not out in the sticks, but we're away from like the highway and the city. It's like sort of out there. So, and it's a resort community. I mean, there's lakes, there's residence clubs. So that's something that we value. So again, we're not saying you can't spend money on a wedding. You can't do this. You have to do what's right for you. This is all I'm doing is telling my story. It can be done, but you have to figure out where you want to sacrifice. But right now, our living situation has totally changed. Jason started working days, but it's totally changed our life. And we want to travel. So we're saving for that. We always want to have the cash first. Something goes out on the car, we have the cash for that. So we're just really a little cash heavy right now. I think we're about 8% is our investment of our net worth is in cash for emergencies and what have you. The only thing is, and the sinking funds, the only thing is I don't like touching the sinking funds. Like we just got back from vacation. I'm like, we have to go to the sinking fund. He's like, that's what they're there for. I'm like, can't we fund it first? I don't want it to go. So anyway, it's as if our lifestyle is like we're retired because this isn't a retired community, what have you, but there is part of it's called the Stray Mountain Ranch. That part of it, there's Cantamia, which is a 55 plus community. So, and we're like right next door. So and there's kids here and there's schools in EMR. But it's just our lifestyle. I mean, there's a lake, like not even like just a couple blocks down, and like outside our window, we can see like a mountain. It's like a foothill. So it's just, yeah. And there's birdies and it's just a lot of nature and stuff. So we love it. So that's the big change.
You paid your dues in 400 square feet.
483, yes.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So Diana, how would you describe your financial situation to folks right now? Are you FI? Are you still working towards FI? Are you in a place where it doesn't really matter right now because Jason loves his job and we've got a great life and we're just enjoying where we are right now? So are you still, quote, saving for retirement, or what does that look like?
So as you know, Jason is very far behind in retirement because when I met him, he had hardly anything. So Jason right now is working to max out the 403b, max out the IRA. So, and eventually he'll get a brokerage account. So we're still in the accumulation phase. So we are not FI, but and I don't know if he wants to be fat FI. So he like 5,000, I mean, which is fine, but because he just wants to travel. Everybody has their love language. We're like into experiences, just personally. A story real quick, if I may. The director of the stewardship ministry had given an example of grandparents. They would just heard two of the grandkids talking, and they're like about two of the grandparents. And I'm like, which grandparent? The one that gives us stuff or the ones we have fun with? So just personally, we want to be the parents that like the grandparent, the grandma and grandpa that run with the kids. So we have to stay in shape. They can keep up with them, and we want to visit them, and we want to eventually be able to take them on vacations. So that's where your Fat Fi comes from. And we really want to be givers, working for nonprofits, and we want to be able to go on mission trips. So as far as dreams, and go out. And my late brother did a lot of orphanage work in Mexico. I want to follow in his footsteps. So we really want to be able to give a lot, a lot more. So you can't really give if you're not making anything. So, I mean, when you get FI, you have your income, and some people have side hustles or what have you, or for extra income. So that's our dream eventually.
Well, nice. You have been awesome today. There are so many great financial nuggets. If we're about money, life, and mindset, you've covered all three really. And you were a late starter financially. You were a late starter personally. And look how happy you are. Look where you've come to, and look where the peace, the financial peace has brought you, personal peace, spiritual peace. It is about that. You don't want that debt burden on your shoulders weighing you down. You don't want Dave Ramsey in shackles on your TV. You want to feel healthy. You talk about physical health. You've reached financial health. And I think you're telling our audience that they can do it too.
Amen. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
so Diana, I know that you made a comment that you had a special dedication that you wanted to make for this episode. So tell us about that.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if this was going to be in the show notes or not, so this will be a little hard. I'm going to dedicate my first podcast to my cousin Ida and my brother Tony. We originally had the podcast scheduled for yesterday, which was her birthday. She would have been 35. She had a full ride to DePaul, and she actually passed away from a heroin overdose at the age of 27. My brother had addiction issues until he was 27, and he's on his road to recovery for 30 years. He had some health complications. He actually almost passed away in 2019. His lung collapsed. He used to be a smoker, and so he had some health complications. So he passed away last year at 57. So I just want to dedicate my first podcast. Thank you so much. I've dreamed about this for a very long time. And the last time I had dinner with my brother, he was really got into his story about his recovery that I never knew about. And just he served so much, like at his memorial, so many people would just pop up and be like, Tony did this for my recovery. Tony did that. So he was sharing a lot about his recovery. And he said he had been making a plan to pay off his car. It was his last debt within the year. And he didn't get to see that happen, but his wife did, for both of them. So I'm just super proud. Like he just really, I think with the death scare in 2019, he's like, I got to get my ducks in a row. And he did. And I just want to dedicate this to him as well. And there is help out there. Please, the 12-step programs work. Any of the 12-step programs, look them up. We might have the link in the show notes, and there is Celebrate Recovery. So there is freedom, there is peace, and it can happen for you.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
We'll make sure everything's in the show notes because there's so many things that people can access here from this episode. We want to thank you from the bottoms of our heart for joining us today. Congratulations on your first podcast. You're awesome. It was awesome.
I'm so glad it was with us. It makes me feel special.
Yeah, well, it won't be your last. It certainly won't be your last because your story really needs to get out there in more ways than one. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you soon on Catching Up to
Looking forward to it. Take care, everybody. Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to 5. We would appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review so that our message can reach others.
We are not lawyers, financial advisors, accountants, or tax experts. Please consult your own professional advisors before making any important decisions. Our content is for entertainment and education purposes only.
We'll see you next time on Catching Up to 5.